It was a whirlwind of a season for the Michigan Wolverines, and sadly it came to an end tonight in the college football semifinals against TCU. We are now joined by our sister station, WXYZ Sports Director Brad Galley, who was in Arizona, watched that game in person. Brad, thanks so much for being here. It was a wild game. Slow start for the Wolverines, allowing a lot of points scored early on in that game, but that's not very like them. What was your biggest takeaways from this game, especially now it being their second straight semifinal loss?
Remy, I think what it turned into was a Big 12 game, and Michigan couldn't keep up. Everything we grew to know about this Michigan team, all the success that they had through 13 games, that recipe absolutely dissolved. We didn't see any of the attack that they had throughout the entire season of owning the line of scrimmage with a running attack that made Blake Corum an All-American through the first 11 games of the season. We didn't see Donovan Edwards step up with an explosive play outside of the very first play from scrimmage. Michigan's defense couldn't stop the run. It was everything that you knew going into this game Michigan had going for it in its favor that ultimately turned on them. TCU turned this into a track meet, and in that third quarter, Remy, you saw how entertaining it was with the back and forth scores, everybody on the edge of their seats here, and every time you thought Michigan was going to get close, TCU would punch ahead. It comes down to one score, which is really crazy with how lopsided it was with an 18-point advantage in that second quarter, but ultimately Michigan's season ends because they lost their way, and TCU beat them really by owning the line of scrimmage.
Brad, I know we've talked all year about Michigan being a second-half team, and I think for a little while maybe we thought that they were going to do that again today, especially the way they played. I know you and I were at the Ohio State game just a month ago. Was there any point during tonight where you thought maybe they can do it and they can turn it around? And what ultimately do you think was the reason they weren't able to come back tonight?
Well, I think it's a great point by you, right? I mean, even in some of those games against lower-end Big Ten competition, the nerves started to build up, I think, from a lot of us watching on the outside. Okay, is Michigan going to fall this week? Is Michigan going to fall this week? But they absolutely made adjustments better than most teams in the country. But it was Sonny Dykes, TCU's head coach, who said Friday, these are two of the best second-half teams in the country. And he said the way to build it is by recruiting great offensive lines. Both programs did that. And I definitely thought when JJ started to use his legs successfully, again in that third quarter, okay, maybe that would open things up. Maybe that would open up the run game, create some options for Colston Loveland to use the tight end. But TCU really shut down Loveland and Luke Schoonmaker, who ultimately sat the second half. The point that I think it really cost Michigan was that second pick six. It's tough to win a game with a pick six going the other way. Throwing two proved to be way too costly for this Michigan team, Remy, and ultimately a hole they couldn't dig out of.
Absolutely. I think there was a point in that second half where I thought it was going to be able to turn even. I tweeted it, and then I was like, oh, maybe not. But an incredible season, as we saw throughout the entire year, and we really appreciate you joining us tonight, and safe travels back to Michigan.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Brad.